So now I'm so pleased to introduce our speakers. Noah is the author of The Old Jewish Men's Guide to Eating, Sleeping, and Futzing Around, and the creator of the viral Instagram account @OldJewishMen. And Jonah is a staff reporter for the New York Times, covering Manhattan's criminal justice system. So thank you so much for joining us today, and now I'm going to hand it over to our speakers.
Is this on? Yep.
All right.
All right, well, thanks for everyone for being here, and thanks for that introduction. I'm so excited to be here. Noah has nothing to do with the criminal justice system in Manhattan yet, as far as I know. But we've been friends for a really long time, and when I first moved to New York, actually, I would wake up early in the morning and bike down to East Broadway and go see Noah, who insisted that we write early at his coffee shop, which was just around the corner. And so I'm really proud that he now has this book. And he's making it big both on Instagram and in print, kind of just spanning the entire spectrum of media. So congratulations, Noah.
Thank you, Jonah. Yeah, it's great to be here today, and it is kind of it was always kind of a early 20s fantasy to get to kind of share the stage with Jonah, because we, as young men trying to be writers, we were pretty dedicated to it. Kind of, as Jonah would say, we were kind of writing every day for nothing and no one. And to be doing this with him is special. So thanks for being here, Jonah.
Yeah, of course. Old Jewish Men's Guide to Eating and Sleeping and Futzing Around, the complete handbook for thriving in this fakakta world, started, as I'm sure many of you know, as an Instagram account. And the Instagram account didn't start with this kind of polish or cartoons or a cast of characters who are familiar to followers of the account. It started really with Noah taking trips to South Williamsburg to take pictures of old Jewish men. And so my first question is, why did you do that?
Yeah. It was South Williamsburg. It was even much lazier than that. I would, kind of just step outside on East Broadway and snap pictures of the guys come off my block. I was sort of living at the time. I'm sure most of you are familiar if you live here in the city, on East Broadway, kind of towards East Rivers, kind of like the last bastion of religious Jewish life. There's a lot of yeshivas on the block. A lot of little shtibels. My brother and I happened to live underneath one at 247 East Broadway, and at the time, we were getting a lot of knocks on our door because we were living beneath the shul to make the minyan or whatever, which became a very, kind of a spiritual burden. Especially, when you're in your 20s and you're doing all kinds of stuff in your apartment, that this like davening and shuckling is how you can hear it upstairs, and kind of having to come up with an excuse every day of why you can't really make it. Because kind of once you go once, I made the mistake of going once. Once you go once, you're going to go twice. But it was convenient for me. I mean, I found the guys interesting. I started taking their photographs, and then I received a small amount of enthusiasm on the internet, which, if in those days, if a certain amount of people kind of reached out and said, "This is good," maybe it's 5 people. All right, I'll keep going. That was about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you about this because I think many of your friends were supportive and they saw you were passionate about it. You had one friend in particular who was, moralizing and obnoxious about it and said, "What are you doing? Are you making fun of these guys? I don't get it. No one's going to like this." And that was me, of course. And I was very much wrong. I mean, I think the account drew followers fairly quickly. And people saw kind of what you saw in these pictures, in these guys. And it was, I think, a lot of love. But what do you think people were responding to kind of in these early days where it was simply just pictures of older Jewish men with the fashion and the walking and the various other characteristics?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Jonah was probably the most outspoken of my friends, kind of questioning what's behind this unusual passion. But he wasn't the only one. My mother, for example, at the time I'd been making a web series with my brother which was a no budget, pretty horrible thing.
Incredible.
That we were spending a lot of time doing. And she keeps saying to me, this is not worth being broke over. And she kind of said the same thing about the Old Jewish Men account. For years, she said, I don't get it. This is just kind of horrible. Don't do this. And your question, sorry, why persist?
Why do you think that people started to follow it and really get into it?
I think that, well, at the time, the Instagram account now is more of a celebration of, this certain type of man. And that man is kind of like a more culturally Jewish kind of figure than kind of the genesis of the account. Originally, the account was more almost a reflection of who I was at the time, which might sound strange, but at the time, I mean, Jonah knew me. I, wasn't doing like a whole lot. I was kind of trying to be a writer. I was working really kind of, not totally great jobs. And I was, not particularly happy. And I think I maybe saw myself in a lot of these guys. And I mean, honestly, the account should have probably just been called like Sad Old Men or, Miserable in Manhattan, or it could have been any of these iterations kind of just of like the daily agony that one sort of sees on the streets of New York in the winter. I went out there trying to basically capture these faces that I probably could relate to. And I think that there was kind of an authenticity there that people attached themselves to, and were willing to, forgive any accidental, I don't know what word you would have for it, but yeah, whatever,
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing that really worked about the account, still works about the account, and really is clear in the book, is that you have this gift as an amateur anthropologist, basically. You're always sorting people into categories. Well, you have your book Jew, and you have your money Jew, and you have your, what's the third?
I heard there's a thing that there's only three kinds of Jews. There's the book Jew, the money Jew, and the street Jew.
And so was that held up? Did that hold up when you started to do the account? Were you like, oh, book, money, street?
Yeah. I think you can kind of, these are three pretty like accurate categories, I think, maybe, of our people.
Okay, yeah,
What do you think?
agree. I mean, I totally agree. I strongly identify with book, and I'm proud to identify.
Look at your
with book.
sweater.
I know. This is my OJM outfit. I wore it for this event.
Book Jew.
What about you? Street?
Street Jew.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yeah.
You can tell.
Yeah. I mean, the thing started on the street, so.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm actually happy. So Noah's web series was called Cellar Dwellers, and one of the criticisms from his friends, I was actually a big enthusiast about Cellar Dwellers for the most part, I think. But one of the big criticisms I remember from our friend Tyler was that Noah was really excited about the merch aspect of the web series. So this is a web series that no one watched. Like 15 people, all of whom we knew personally. That was it. And yet Noah was already making T-shirts. He commissioned an artist to draw the Cellar Dwellers, who were him and his brother. So why do you think that the merch is so important to you? And where did the kind of merch aspects of OJM really begin?
That's something I've definitely never thought about. And maybe there's something in my mind about, for something to be real, you have to be able to have a, kind of a tangible product that you can put in someone's hands. And, with Cellar Dwellers, maybe I just thought, this is how you spread the word. And it's so kind of an old-fashioned way, I guess, of thinking about it. And Old Jewish Men, I guess, is the exact same thing. I mean, I started selling T-shirts when I hardly had any audience. Why I did that, I don't know. It was like instinctual. You don't know why you do these things.
It worked, though. People buy the merch. It's a big thing.
Yeah.
I've been begging you for a sweatshirt. You finally gave me one.
I gave him a gift.
All right, so that makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about old Jewish manhood, the category. So you say in the book you don't have to be old or Jewish to be an old Jewish man. I assume it helps.
Helps.
Okay.
Helps.
All right. But what do you need?
What do you need?
Yeah.
Right. Well, the book, yeah. I mean, the book is kind of like I like to think about it as a philosophy book. That if you kind of abide by this way of being, you can be a part of this kind of subspecies, which I identify with. I have been kind of accepted, I think, by my friends who are more categorically qualify as old Jewish men, as an old Jewish man, because of my spirit. It has nothing to do with the fact that I wrote the book. But I think that there seems to be a unifying quality, which you kind of see in the most popular old Jewish men today in pop culture, or whatever, Larry David and Bernie Sanders and all these guys, or whatever, that kind of that have sort of created, whoever, what it means to be this certain kind of guy. Maybe they're all sort of sure of themselves, sure of themselves in the same way, but also like unabashedly and unashamed of who they are. They've reached a point in life where take them as they are.
Okay. And so, is there an age? So I'm Jewish, as I think we've covered already, and I'm sure I'll mention it several more times. Is there an age where I can just guaranteed I will be an OJM, signed, sealed, no other thing? Or is it a state of mind? Like, do I have to reach an age, or do I have to reach this kind of level of self-comfort? Like, what does it take?
Whenever an old Jewish man asks me if they qualify, I always ask them how old they are, and whatever they tell me, I say it's 2 years older than they are. So that's kind of been the rule, at least when guys ask me, because it's funny, because the future old Jewish man is more keen on being part of this group than an actual old Jewish man, which I can understand. But I meet so many old Jewish men who don't particularly want to be thought of as old, which I guess I'll understand one day. But I don't know. I mean, I tend to think that around 70-ish is when you kind of like become this sort of character. But then I see guys who, I mean, I think some of the guys that were in the videos originally, that when we basically started filming around town, hadn't hit 70, which was sort of like confounding and unbelievable that they were acting in such a way, and were these guys that were like willing to do these things and wanted to do these things. They hadn't even hit
and what would
prime
they do?
years.
What would they do? What kinds of things? What makes you say someone and say, oh yeah, he's got it. That's a guy.
I think it's a sort of like it's a sort of excitement to play this character that they thought themselves to be, or like or wanted to or aspired to be. It's like we would have these different gags, which kind of hinged on like being a very specific kind of like irate old Jewish man. And if they weren't willing to be irate, they couldn't do it. Like they couldn't be in the club.
Yeah.
Schlubbiness
seems to be a big category for you. You really care.
Schlubby is good. Schlubby is definitely a pro. Not too schlubby, because too schlubby you might smell a little bit.
Not too
schlubby.
Be
around you.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh,
so socialness is also a big part of it.
It is.
Interesting.
I mean, I think that. Originally it was all about being like, an old schlub.
Yeah.
But now we're trying to. My dad encouraged me to do this too, to kind of try to cover our bases a little more as far as like casting a more diverse group of old Jewish men. Because my dad, who I consider to be like. He's a book Jew. He's a spiritual Jew. He's not a guy that is gonna stand up at Katz's and scream that pastrami's too expensive. He's like a mild mannered old Jewish man. And he told me, he said, where's my representation on this? Where are the guys who are like studying Talmud or whatever? And it's very valid. But that stuff doesn't necessarily play as well to
to the Instagram audience.
To the Instagram audience.
But you got it in here. You got a whole chapter.
But it's more in the book.
Yeah.
That's why you got to buy the book.
You also have that. It's interesting that you talk about the socialness, because you have toward the end of the book, you're talking about how Jews act in different places. Again, very anthropological. And you talk about Tel Aviv, you have a parliament, 6 Jews on a bench.
Right.
Of all different types.
It's a public safety hazard.
Yeah, that's right. So tell us a little bit about what that looks like.
Like what qualifies as a parliament, first of all?
Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, the parliament is, I'm sure maybe some of you have been to Tel Aviv? Show of hands, okay. Well, the first time I was there, I was pretty young, and I would walk around and I would see these groups of guys on congregated on benches and like in the backs of rug stores and in front of shops, and they're like sitting around smoking and playing backgammon and kind of like screaming at each other and stuff. And I always kind of wondered, like, what's the deal? And how come you don't see that in America? And how much I wish I got to see that in America. And it turns out that there really is like a this again is like a very specific lane of existence. Like if you like, I talked to a few of these guys, interviewed them when last time I was in Israel, kind of for the book, and it occurred to me that these guys all kind of have their loyalties to like a certain friend group, and they don't really like deviate that much. And it happens to be like these are mostly groups of 6.
Yeah, I mean, you say this early in the book too. Consistency is a big thing for the OJM. Routine, knowing what you're going to do, knowing the same restaurants, knowing what things are going to taste like. What's that about? Why do you think that's so important? And I'm 35. I'm starting to feel the appeal. I don't want to order something that I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't really want to necessarily. And my wife is not happy about kind of my.
She wants to try new things.
She wants to try new things. She wants to go to new places, and I just feel the pull toward the familiar already. So, do you think that's an inherent OJM quality? Is that just aging? What's that about?
To me, it just seems very wise. We don't have that much time. Why waste it, exploring, the unfamiliar when, like, you have to protect your downside, I guess. I mean,
I strongly agree with this.
Especially when it comes to food.
Yeah.
You could easily get ripped off, or you can get food poisoning.
It's remarkable. So we all know that there are terrible, terrible restaurants all over New York, and you pass those restaurants, and sometimes they're actually empty, and that's like, you can't even imagine how bad it is, because there are plenty of awful restaurants that are filled every day. And I'm like, who are these people?
Yeah.
They're not all tourists. Some of them are, but not all tourists. So yeah, I completely.
The tourists are pulled into the corner restaurants. I've always been skeptical of the restaurants on the corner, even Katz's. When was the last time that Katz served a Jew? Yeah. It's all tourists.
You're very anti a lot of the Katz's patrons. I don't know what happened to you there, but you clearly have come in for some harsh treatment at Katz's.
They're not going to sell the book. Actually, they might. We've recently made amends with them. Actually, Dave, I think, is in the audience, which you might know him from the Instagram account. But he was basically, we were collectively, as an old Jewish man, as the company, we were banned from Katz's. In 2021, after protesting the price of pastrami. and recently we were re-welcomed in there with open arms, because Dave did a commercial for Katz's on the condition that they would put his picture up on the wall. And they agreed. So, and another thing has also changed. I don't know how you feel about Katz's, Jonah, but
I love Katz's.
In 2021, I think that actually the complaint that Dave had was very valid, because Katz's was kind of the first place to raise the prices on the pastrami sandwich after the pandemic. And since 2021, they haven't raised the prices anymore. But everyone else has not only raised the prices, but shrunk the size of their sandwiches. And Katz's now actually is really good value. So let that be known.
Yeah. I mean, you're very attentive to kind of changes in deli pricing, material availability, et cetera.
But in the book, you'll notice that the big gripe now with Katz's is they removed waiters, except in the very back room for VIP.
So no waiters at all anymore?
No waiters.
But I thought it was always kind of serve yourself, no?
No. It used to have table service.
Oh, my God. That's horrible.
Yeah.
The thing you complain about in the book is that you said that everyone goes there and does the Harry Met Sally routine. People are just constantly fake orgasming at Katz's, and it's distracting.
Right. That's kind of a nice thing.
Got it. Would you ever want your photo up on the wall at Katz's?
Definitely.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
You're always behind the camera with the account.
Yeah, but there's certain badges of honor even the behind the camera guy would would want. I would never expect to have my photo on the wall because I am ostensibly compared to Dave or any of the other guys a nobody. But if they asked me to put the photo on the wall, I would absolutely accept, and I would show it off all the time. I would lord it over my friends.
Oh my God, yeah, that's incredible. I would be very envious.
Yeah.
How has it been for you? You're doing this tour. You're out from behind the camera. You've done the thing that you always wanted to do, which is a book. Has it been strange? Is it odd to be recognized, or to say, hey, that's me, that's my account, and have people say I don't, go beeline for Dave and ignore you because they don't know who you are?
It hasn't been weird. I think just kind of disappointing for other people when they meet me and they expect me to be Dave. so you always get the same question. You're not an old Jewish man. How did you write a book about old Jewish men? And I explained to them that to be an American is to be kind of a con man, and I'm just kind of living the American dream here, and hope to keep going and to get a second book and to kind of keep the shtick alive.
As long as you believe that time kind of just exists, that the past and the future and the present are all continuous, you're already an OJM. There is a time already extant in which you are older. So I think it works out no matter what.
That's a pretty sophisticated take there, bro.
No,
But you really do work for the New York Times.
Can you be old and Jewish and not be an OJM?
Can you be old and Jewish and not be an OJM?
And a man, excuse me, and not be an OJM?
Yeah. I for some reason, yeah. My wife has this uncle that we just, something about him, that we always talk about how this guy was switched at birth, or there's just something they're not telling us, and he's like I don't, whatever. It's a stereotype that Jews don't really drink that much, and this guy is like a real lush, and just kind of like you don't find a lot of these red-faced, white-haired, full great hairlines, and kind of like he's sort of like very even-keeled, very balanced, and that kind of influenced the decision that I have in the book. I have a possibly Gentile category. And there's no other way to categorize guys like that, either switched at birth or, possibly Gentile.
Yeah, that makes sense. When we were talking about this, I said, "No, what do you want me to ask you about?" And you said, "Movies." And I said, "What do you mean, movies?" And you said, "Let's talk about why Stanley Kubrick isn't recognized as an OJM."
Oh,
so
yeah.
do you want to talk about why Stanley Kubrick isn't recognized as an OJM?
I don't know why I said that. I really wasn't prepared for my own question. I really don't know much about Stanley Kubrick, but it's just funny to me that some guys really are thought of, there's. I don't know whether or not it's just because Stanley Kubrick never made a Jewish movie. I mean, Spartacus, obviously not a Jewish movie, unless.
I think that's a fair statement.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of other guys who just never really kind of swept it under the rug.
He's kind of not in the canon in the same way.
No. And people always forget that he is.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing, in his movie, there's nothing Jewish about his movies, but the more you read about the guy, he seems like your typical sort of obsessive, overly obsessive, highly neurotic, book Jew.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I've been curious about neuroses when it comes to OJM. I'm highly neurotic. I think you're pretty neurotic, although you hide it better than I do. But the OJM stereotype to me is someone who has finally relaxed, or they're set in their ways. Maybe they're neurotic, but they've drawn a box around themselves such that anything that would trigger the neuroses has been pushed to the side. So is that true? Are OJM neurotic? I mean, it's a famously Jewish quality. We're very proud of it. But does it kind of dissipate over time? What do you think?
I think that's that's sort of an interesting thought that it's the stereotype of the neurotic Jew is kind of the neurotic young Jewish man, mm-hmm. And it seems to me that old Jewish men kind of ease in and age into their their final form, I guess. And it seems like the arc is almost like, I mean, you seem to be working in these, it's like you're working in these extremes. It's like you're afraid when you don't need to be afraid, and you're not afraid when you should be afraid.
As an OJM.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
interesting.
I mean, and maybe something just happens and suddenly you're kind of like peeking into the other side a little bit and you realize it's going to be okay. My uncle takes his blood pressure, he told me 5 times a day. But it doesn't have anything to do with being fearful of death. I think it just has to do with wanting an accurate number.
I love that.
You know?
Yeah.
What do you think?
What do I think about whether OJM are neurotic?
Well, yeah, like how come old men, like for example, well, if you want to talk about like Woody Allen, for example, he's like this the neurotic young Jew.
Yeah.
Well, I guess actually he never really changes. He's still like his whole thing is being afraid of death, I guess, isn't it? Even as an old man.
I suppose, yeah. But he has kind of settled. I mean, the routine thing is, I think, very wise and correct because he seems, he just started making movie after movie. Now when he's interviewed, he was interviewed about Marshall Brickman, like, I think this past week maybe.
Yeah.
And you can tell, he celebrates Brickman, but there's a kind of steadiness to him that I don't think that was there when
he was a younger man.
Yeah, when he was younger. I mean, I'm curious because the old Jewish man that I'm most familiar with is, of course, my father. And he's not neurotic at all. And I don't know if he had it before he had me, and it just kind of went away because of the kids and the whatever, but yeah, he really doesn't have it. And it actually makes me kind of question where I came from. I'm pretty sure that I'm, OJM material. He's definitely OJM material. You have a thing in the book about how, like, OJM, even at the beach, like to go to the pool, and that's very true of my parents. So.
Right.
I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly right. No, I'm not sure. I think what characterizes the OJM type that you describe both on the account and here is this kind of old worldness. My father-in-law is Egyptian. He's not a Jewish guy, but he's Egyptian. And
He fought on the other side.
yeah, father on the other side. And he is he is every stereotype in this book. He is exactly like everything about these people. He's like the classic, like schlubby, like not quite criminal, but like definitely like wants to like make a few bucks on the side if he can, like go along to get along. So I think what you're describing is almost this kind of old world sensibility, which I think, fearful of the wrong things, but not fearless when it comes to it. I think that makes a lot of sense. So it made me wonder, do you think that OJM are an endangered species? Like, are you and I definitely going to become this thing that you observed with such joy and brought to people with such joy? Or is it actually like a very specific type of person that we may not actually see as much anymore as we get older, and we'll have different kind of quirks and qualities?
Like, in other words, is it like, is there a finite amount and it's kind of dependent on being born at a certain time, and culturally we just won't kind of be able to adapt?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Or will I just be on my phone? Like, will like the version of you who is, Noah Rinsky, but like 100 years in the future, or 40 years in the future, looking at me, be like, what characterizes these idiots is that they're still addicted to their phones. And that's really the only quality that they have.
Eating bionic bagels.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think? Do you think it's an eternal quality or a flash in the pan?
I think I think that we will be identical to our fathers. Yeah. I don't think that there's any danger of this thing running out. Like I was saying earlier to your question, is like, why is it that I was drawn to selling merchandise, for irrationally, the same thing that my grandfather probably my grandfather's in the schmata business or whatever. Why did I do this? It wasn't a logical decision. It certainly wasn't a good business decision, but I couldn't help myself. It's just kind of like it's innate, I guess. So I have no doubt that no matter how addicted to our phones we get, there will be a very strong OJM current running through us. Yeah, and I think there's new guys being inducted all the time, into the the OJM Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And
That's very comforting. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. All right, so that raises a really important question, I think, which is that, so the Boomer OJM, they have Boca, legendarily. They have Manhattan to some extent. Where are we guys going to go? Like, are there going to be new places? Can you give us kind of like a scouting report on where should we be checking out, early retirement, kind of, any thoughts?
Well, I think that, I don't think that we're going to be particularly scared of climate change like we should be. I think that guys our age are going to see deals in places that shouldn't exist but continue to exist and continue to move down there. I mean, I know this firsthand because I know guys my age now who are having kids moving into gated communities in Boca. It doesn't make any sense. Once every 2 years, you basically have this totally existential risk, and you just kind of shrug it off. So I really just don't think anything's going to change.
So it's still Boca, just perennial Boca.
Yeah, why not? It's still good.
How do you feel about this, like, floating islands, man-made islands? Do you think that's a good look for OJM?
Floating man-made islands?
Yeah, floating man-made islands.
Is that a thing that's happening?
Yeah, uh-huh.
I mean, what are the prices like? I mean, like, can I get in?
I think no.
You know?
I don't think we should be trapped on islands. I think it's good to have like a big mainland to traverse if necessary.
Right. Well, what do you think? I mean,
What I think about,
we're going to like Louisiana?
I don't know where we're gonna go. It has to be warm, so that limits your options.
Right.
I think that under discussed
Arizona.
retirement location, yes, the Southwest, exactly.
Yeah.
Particularly Santa Fe, which I'm a big fan of.
But I don't think that I don't think Jews are that good in like really dry climates.
Are you kidding? 40 years
All right.
in the desert.
Well, yeah.
I think we're amazing in this. I mean, we survived.
Yeah, but I mean, like 40 years in the desert, then to get to I always think of Israel as being humid. Right. I guess Jerusalem's arid.
Oh, maybe the same thing will happen.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So I think one kind of thread that we've focused on here is that the neuroses are very high in youth, and maybe they seem to taper off at least a little bit in older age, as far as we can tell. And one of the potential theory here is that people have children.
People have what?
Children.
It's funny. It's funny that it was my dad who was a psychiatrist, and it feels like you want to you're really making this really a psychological conversation. I like it.
What else? What else?
Yeah,
could it be?
it's good.
It's all about you.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, I was going to say, so you're about to have a kid. Congratulations.
Thank
About
you.
to have a kid.
Thank you.
And
I didn't do much. It was easy.
are you talking about the gender of the kid yet or no?
Yeah, it's a masculine child.
So how does this? So now you've created this book.
Yeah.
It's all about celebrating old Jewish men. You self-proclaim as one, but now you're kind of getting the shove over into the next generation that I think will send you that way, kind of toward OJM status. How are you feeling about? Are you going to raise the child to be an OJM? Do you think these are the qualities you want to pass on? Kind of, how do you want him to think about this whole phenomenon that has rocketed you to the stage here at this beautiful hall?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like the question that I think, like, what does Dad do?
Yeah.
Dad is taking pictures of old men. But there's only one place to go, and that's into the onesie business. So
That's
great.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I feel it. I definitely feel like, having a kid, I'm definitely getting into this kind of this next stage, and I felt that way even when I got married. That it was making me closer to this stage of life that I hope is inevitable. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I report back more when the kid is actually born. I can only imagine it's like getting hit with a shovel in the face.
No, it's nice.
In a good way.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I don't know how to kind of explain the concept of OJM to my son, but I'll definitely. He loves the book. Actually, I don't think you can see it in this lighting, but my book is all smudged, and that's because my baby, who's 9 months old, loves this book. He likes the face on it, and maybe it reminds me, similar kind of hair pattern to mine. And yeah, maybe it just reminds him of his dad. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually heard this a lot from people that their babies and kids can't look away from the book.
Oh yeah, all the faces in the book. My kid loves it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loves it. So it's great. It's great for babies. Don't just get it for kind of the old Jewish men in your life. The young Jewish babies in your life too will enjoy this book.
There's something so great about it and comforting about an old face.
I love an old face.
Me too.
I agree. I think we can open it up for questions if people have questions. Do we have I don't know how this is going to work. Do we have a mic in the auditorium?
Oh yeah, I guess everyone needs. It's quiet in here.
Or yeah, people can speak loud. Does anyone have any questions for Noah?
Hi, thanks for your wonderful talk, and I was just wondering if you had any thoughts or comments on the work of Ben Catcher.
Oh yeah. What did he do again?
Julius Knightle, real estate photographer. He had an ongoing syndicated column in the Forward. He's got 3 or 4 books out about old Jewish men. They're cartoons, they're adult graphic novels.
Oh, wait. Did he do that book about the delicatessen? Yeah. Oh, I mean I have. Yeah, but the dairy restaurants. Yeah, I love that book. Yeah, he's great. A friend of mine, actually, Dick Carroll, the guy who did the cartoons for the book, Ben was his teacher at God, where was it? Where does he teach? Sorry. Anyway, he was his teacher. Dick gave me the book to read while we were working on the book, and I really enjoyed it. So I actually didn't realize that he worked with the Forward, but. Got it. Yeah.
But it's, it's a similar demographic and it's adorable.
Completely. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. No, I meant to ask you. What's your methodology for when you want to take someone's picture on the street? How do you approach it? I mean, you used to just kind of spy, kind of pick. Do you still do that? Do you ask permission? And then what's the range of reactions that you get?
Oh yeah. It used to be when I was really starting off. I was probably just more fearful in general, and the rare times that I would ask, the answer was usually why. And when I told them, it was for my, I would usually say blog or website, they would always say no. So, then I kind of just stopped asking, and it was just, as my brother would say, just going around taking pictures of men without their permission. So, that's what I did for years. And I think it was all totally, above board if it's on the street. But I had one incident where someone, said, "This is my grandfather. You took a picture of him in what he felt was a compromised position. Please remove it." So I removed it. But
and then some. Oh, do we have a question out there? I thought I saw a hand, but maybe not. Sometimes you'll post a picture of someone who you're not quite sure is an OJM.
Oh yeah,
for your audience.
Poll. I do a
yeah.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
What are those people who kind of hover? You're like, because you're kind of asking, do you think this person is Jewish? But there's also something, it's a bigger question too.
Yeah, exactly. It's a much bigger question. Yeah, there's always like something that is slightly askew, and I kind of want to hear from everybody else. Do you see it too? Mm-hmm.
And is the person usually sitting just between, like, could be, could not be?
I'd say so, yeah.
And how do those polls have a trend toward 50-50, or do they kind of are all over the place?
I would say that it always feels to me like people want it to be a yes, but it's often no.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah,
So
they really want them to be.
They're rooting for the new member of the community.
Yeah.
But you have to be honest.
And I'll have so many people message me and just be like, Gentile. And it's like, it's not really what I'm asking here. I mean,
Right. Yeah, it's the type. It's the type.
It's the type.
Yeah.
It's the type.
Understandable. Let's see. Do we have any more questions in the audience? I don't see any hands. Well, I think we can wrap this up. Well, thank you all so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a real delight and lovely to talk to you, Noah. Thank you for talking
Jonah,
to me.
a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this.